Hey guys, thanks for joining. Again, Chris, always nice to travel with you.
You too,
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. You guys have asked for this video for a little while. I'm gonna hand this right over to Chris as soon as we start talking about the kit. But today, we're gonna talk about how to load up your 3-in-1 med kit, and Chris is gonna take us through the reasoning and the thinking behind that. Now, when we travel, of course, Overland Bound says adventure is necessary. And along with that is our responsibility to also be prepared when we're seeking that adventure.
Absolutely.
Things do happen.
They do happen.
Right? And Chris, trauma surgeon, he sees it every day. Things do happen. My job during this video is going to be the peanut gallery. I'm going to try and channel you guys. I'm going to ask questions as we go that you may want answers from Chris about. But Chris, why don't you tell us what we're looking at here?
All right, so brief background, as you guys know, first aid kit is very important. It should be one of the first things you do if you want to go out in the wilderness, in my opinion. Granted, as a surgeon who sees it, I need to push for that. The kit is designed that your just very basic understanding of what to do with the components can make a difference in saving someone's life or making a trip go from horrible to worse. So the reason we're starting with this as is in the box is not an unboxing video to show off how it's all packaged. It's really to show you that you get components and you need to put those components together to make it a usable kit.
Yeah.
And that also shows you what you have, and we're going to show you how I recommend you put it together so that everything is broken down according to we call it 3-in-1 for the fact you get 3 kits. So there's a trauma kit, and we have a trauma section. There's a base camp kit, which is more for when you're set up, and then there is a Booboo Kit, and that's for your little cuts and scrapes. So we'll go through what you get and how to put it together to make those 3 things really work in your favor when you need them.
Cool.
So diving right in, you're just going to get a plain box like this. Cardboard box, we'll put it back here. When you open it, everything comes in big baggies. So they're not really put together as separate components. This one's got some tourniquets and some chest seals and some gauze bandages, pulse ox, some airway stuff. This one's got more tape and gloves and eye protection and blankets. You get another one that's got splints and some medicines and some cold packs. We do provide 2 Cpr masks. You get instructions here. This is a nice little sheet. It's really just showing you how to use a few things, airways, and I recommend keeping it with it. You get a first aid kit sticker, which will go over, but that sticks on your vehicle. A medication pouch to keep all your medications organized, and then the bag, which is basically something that's going to allow you to have in one kit all 3 of them in an easy to access, organized kind of way. So first thing you want to do is you want to take everything out and organize it into trauma components, and then we'll break that down to airway, breathing, and circulation components, base camp components, Booboo Kit, and then there's even some administrative stuff that you can just leave. And with the bag, this is the version 2.0, it's a little bit bigger, a lot more room for you to add more stuff if you want to, without compromising the ability to open it.
Yeah, let me ask a question. Let me be the start of my first peanut gallery question. Hey, should I pack my trail mix and my water bottles and my maps and my all kinds of stuff into that backpack?
So no. So one of the discussions was with the bigger bag, it can become a day pack for you, and I don't recommend that.
Yep.
Because really the whole point of it is not so much the base camp stuff, but the trauma stuff. If you overload that component and you need it, you won't have it. There'll be too much fluff in the way.
You'd be digging for it.
You're digging for it. So this is really to be dedicated for medical emergencies of any type. And if you want to go on a day hike, you can absolutely use any of these components to make a smaller hiker one, or just buy a separate hiking one just for day hikes. There's not a whole lot you want to carry on a day hike, but no. First aid only.
What we got here, Chris?
All right, so we didn't bore you guys. We laid it all out and kind of organized it a little bit into the basic components, right, of trauma, base camp, and Booboo. So this is everything you get right away, and it's actually a lot for what you can do. There's only so much you can do in the backcountry. You gotta make sure air goes in and out, and you gotta make sure blood stays in and goes round and round when you're talking trauma. That is it, and everything on this side of the table will do that for anything that's survivable, which is most of the injuries to the extremities. You're not going to do a whole lot to the chest and belly.
Right.
You just got to get them out.
So you can see by laying this out, I mean, this is exactly why this video has been requested, right?
Yes.
You get it like this, you lay it out, you want to know the rhyme and reason behind it, which is
Right,
what
because
you're
it
going
doesn't
through.
even come
Yeah.
packaged in sort of a functional way. It
Right.
just comes with kit that we have together, and then this is what you get. So to go over what you get in the whole thing, because we haven't done that yet, you really, let's just start off with trauma stuff. You get 2 CPR masks, right? This way you can breathe for somebody, give them that air they need. That's the air going in and out. You have nasal airways. These are pretty hard to mess up, but you basically just shove them in someone's nose and it helps air go in and out, especially if you're doing CPR. Obviously, get trained on how to use them, or at very least watch a video. They're not super complicated. They do come with lubrication on the back. Tear the top, put the thing in, and shove it down someone's nose. It makes a huge difference. And that's your airway. And that's really all you can do. There's all the fancy stuff people want to hear about, and pens in the neck and whatnot. It's not going to work realistically. So that is it. That will cover 2 people and deal with all the breathing issues that they can survive that you can help with.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to just underscore what you said, because I think it's self-evident to you, but to really drive the point home, for somebody that just wants to make a difference, it is important to recognize that if you're in the backcountry and you're off-grid, you want to stabilize and get them out, because if they need serious attention or they need your skills, they need to be in a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the kit right now, but we have videos. I've got a video on the difference between trauma and first aid. And it's really, when you recognize that there is a traumatic injury, and if you have to pull out anything in this kit, you need to be working on the evacuation plan. How are you going to get them to help? And that's, assigning somebody, just like you do in the real world. You say, you call 911. You say, you call for help, or you get your truck ready, or whatever your plan to get somebody out is what you need to mobilize. So with the breathing, that's where you go. Now, a lot of us do go out where we shoot and we're around guns while we're camping. These are called chest seals. There's 2. If you are shot in the chest, you peel them, you stick them on. And what they do is they allow air not to escape or come in, and they prevent something called a pneumothorax. Which is a collapsed lung, and then there's something called a tension pneumothorax, which will kill you. So if you're shot in the chest, we do give you 2 of these, which is a really good thing. And now bleeding. Bleeding is the one that most people don't really address properly. And that's really pressure. Everything that is here for bleeding is all about pressure. So if you have somebody who is bleeding, you need to apply pressure. If it's on the arm or leg and you want to just grab it right away, that's great. We give you gloves, 3 pairs in each size. I highly recommend figuring out what size fits and go buy an $8 box off of Amazon. I'll show you where to keep them, because you will use way more gloves than you think. And honestly, if you can put your glove on first and hold pressure while you get stuff out of your kit, you've already made a difference. So just to finish out, we also give you eye protection, because things splatter and it's gross. So protect your eyes. The other thing we give you are 3 different tourniquets here. So there's a soft T, and I recommend you watch videos. Do not practice with the tourniquets we give you, because they're really only for single use. They will lose their ability to actually stop the bleeding, but they're very easy to use. Watch the videos on these. This is a Cat 7, Gen 7 Cat Tourniquet, and this is called an Esmark, which is really just a stretchy compression bandage. But this one's really good for anything, wrapping limbs and wounds. But you get 3 different choices. And then gauze, more gauze than you think you would need. We have smaller packs of compressed gauze, which when you open them, they just expand, but they really allow you to pack wounds so you can get better pressure. And then we've got more compressed gauze, which does the same. You get 4 of those. And then we've got what are called Abd Pads. These are called Combine. Basically, it's just a big gauze pad to put over the top of a wound and then tape it down with the tape that we give you. You get 4 rolls of this. I recommend 2 in your trauma pack and then 2 in the base camp. You really don't want to cross those 2 units up and have to take tape from your trauma pack for a base camp emergency, because you really want your trauma pack to be fully stocked all the time when you're ready to use it. So that is it for the what I would put in the trauma pack. There are a couple little gauze rolls that you can leave in there as well. There's a lot of room in there, and you're going to have plenty of room to actually add stuff based on your training, or if you want more modules, you can buy trauma modules. Moving on, we're going to go to the base camp stuff, which is pretty straightforward. You've got some gauze. You can put this in your Booboo Kit. I like it in my base camp because it's for bigger injuries. A triangular bandage, for which there's 100 different uses for. There's some pictures on the back. 2 ice packs, rescue blankets. Do not underestimate the importance of keeping somebody warm when they've had an emergency. If you stop the bleeding and you get them stabilized, they'll go into shock. Shock's very hard to describe, but it's basically your body's not able to maintain all of its normal functions. And that can happen even on a warm day. They still can go into shock. So make sure you keep them warm, but not too hot. More gauze rolls, more tape, and then a splint. And I don't keep this in my trauma because honestly, for a traumatic injury that would require a splint, that's secondary to me stopping the bleeding or making sure you're breathing. I don't care if your arm is broken in 6 different ways and it looks like a Gumby and bent all over the place. This is secondary. So this is if somebody falls at camp and sprains an ankle or maybe hurts a wrist, you got time to think about it.
And I'm underscoring as we're going through the conversation, we've moved from trauma here, now we're in base camp.
In base camp.
Okay.
And base camp, again, base camp's a lot of, you're going to put in what you're comfortable with. Base camp, you want to think of like your medicine cabinet or first aid kit at home, not a trauma kit, but what would you have? And to go with that, we actually provide a lot of over-the-counter medications, which are all your basics. There's aspirins, electrolytes, stuff for diarrhea, upset tummies, and they come in this little pouch right here. Well, you put them in this pouch, and this is what I carry in all my kits. I've bought more packs so I have more of them, but that's the way to go. So that's really your base camp.
Base camp, and now one of the things you've mentioned to me is the base camp kit. Another way to think about it, as well as the medicine cabinet at home, is it's all the little things that are annoyances that someone's going to come to you for. Right. When you're hanging out, like, hey doc, I think I ate something. Hey, I
have an itch, or my allergies are acting up. Yep. When you look through what's in here, it's really everything you would need. And we actually, for most of your just common ailments that take a nuisance that can ruin a trip and just make it better so you can keep going with your trip. Yeah. We'll have a video on diabetics. I've got one already on the boot camp, but we give you the glucose gel. You really can't go wrong giving the glucose, the sugar gel, to a diabetic. If their sugars are high, it's not going to affect it that much, and to be honest, it doesn't push them over into bad things. But if their sugars are low, they can actually die a lot faster. So you really want to make sure if somebody is acting weird and you know whether they're a diabetic or not, just give them a little shot of this, and they'll just be good. It just goes right in their mouth. But there's a lot of good stuff here. So, great. Okay, so that's kind of, then the last one for base camp is a pulse oximeter. So we got those back in stock. And really, this one tells you the pulse and what their oxygen levels are doing. If you go to higher elevations, that's a really important thing to know what the oxygen level is doing. But honestly, tracking someone's pulse is about all you really need to do. When you'll see we go through this, there's no blood pressure cuff in here, because honestly, even if you got an automatic blood pressure cuff, knowing what to do with the results is part of the deal. And most people can't do anything about a low or high blood pressure out in the backfield. So if their heart rate is high, there's a problem. If their heart rate is low, there might be a problem. But it's really more like if you have a high heart rate, your body's telling you something's going on. Right. So use this for the pulse ox. If you don't want to use this and you have a smartwatch, just put the smartwatch on somebody and have it track their pulse. That's another pro tip for those that don't have a pulse ox. And then moving on, we've got a bunch of Band-Aids. Booboo Kit. Booboo Kit, right? This just goes right up in front, easy to get to. And all honesty, if you don't want to carry this in the backpack, because that might be in an easily accessible but place in the back of the rig, you can just toss this in your glove box. If you got, my kids always need a Band-Aid. My daughter likes to put them on and then take them off 20 minutes later and then put a new one on. So we go through a fair amount of Band-Aids. There's some moleskin and tweezers. You get a little bit of hand sanitizer, obviously. Nothing we do out here is sterile, so don't worry about any of this being sterile. There is a glow stick, because not all emergencies happen during the daylight. I do recommend supplementing this with your headlight of choice, because the headlamp is a lot easier to use than a flashlight. an emergency whistle, and then actually I've read this book, this wilderness first aid book, cover to cover, and it is really good. It's thorough. It is above what most people would want, and in its compact size. So for what we deal with, you're gonna find, especially for more of the Booboo or the base camp stuff, you're gonna find that this book's got what you need.
Great.
So that's kind of where we're at.
This has been a great review for me going through it again, right? Like, you know, Booboo, base camp, and trauma, starting with the most critical first, and making sure that's accessible.
Yeah, and one of the things, you know, I always taught that you really need separate kits, and until this, like the function and the style of this backpack was available, there wasn't anything that allowed for that to be really usable. So you guys will see when we set this backpack up, it really becomes that you can have all three together and don't have to have separate kits for everything. As you guys have seen, I have separate kits, I have a separate base camp, and I have a separate trauma kit, but honestly, don't need it anymore.
3-in-1 kit for all situations. The one of the goals we're trying to solve is, hey, if I buy one kit and I throw it in my truck, do I have everything? All critical stuff.
And I will say that you
deal.
do. I really will. And obviously you guys have seen me. I don't really promote things, but this kit I put together based on my experiences, what we use, what makes a big difference, and what I carry. You can go watch my kits and you'll see that basically what I carry is right here for you. I just have more of it.
Yeah,
I just have more of it.
You've got more, and you can go for a lot longer too. So like in terms of your base camp kit, and you have the skills to use all the stuff, right?
When you go on a trip, we have designated people. I'm not the mechanical person. I'm the medical person.
Right.
So when people are sick, they come to me for everything, and I have the resources to give it to them.
Yeah.
But really, what you really want to do is, when you kit this out, this is really, especially the trauma stuff, this is really good for 2 people. 3 can be okay. 4 would not be okay. You run out of resources really quick. So my recommendation is to have the ability to care for however many people go in your rig often. So I've got myself and my 2 kids and my wife. So we have enough for 4. If there's just 2 of you, this is a great start. But you can buy, without buying the whole bag, you can buy separate modules just to add what you need, or go buy individual items, whatever you think you need. And I'm happy to answer questions, as you guys know. If you want to know what I would add for your specific circumstance, just hit me up.
And I want to point out, we're gonna load this up. We'll show you guys how to do that. Overland Bound MD on Instagram. Chris, you utilize, as a preferred mode of communication, you use Instagram quite a bit. If people reach out to you.
I'm a public account for the reason that you can message me, and I've answered everyone who's reached out to me. I don't have any problems with that.
Great.
And if you've got more specific questions, and we'll get into emails and stuff like that and calls, but I'm very happy to answer whatever questions you have about any of this stuff, or medical stuff, or without sharing. There's people who tell me, I have this condition, how do I safely go into the woods?
Now, before we pack this up, let's touch base on that little decal, that little red decal.
Yes. So
I think
I put it back here.
Oh yeah, there it is.
You get, as part of many of the things in here, where to go? See, I'm not really that good with my hands. Okay, so you actually get this first aid sticker for your rig, and what it does is it lets people know that there's a first aid kit inside.
Right.
And the reason we have the bag as red is very unlikely that people have a red bag in their car. It's just not a common color for what we like to do.
Right.
So if you needed to, if you saw somebody get hurt, or you were somewhere and you wanted to take care of them, you could say, go get the red bag out of my rig, and they would go find it. And for those that aren't around, they know that you have a first aid kit, and they'll look for it if they need to. It'd
be an unfortunate situation, right? But I have this, I have that on my rig, so it's pretty visible. Even if you're not around your rig, they can smash your window and they can grab it, right? They know there's a med kit in there, and if somebody is in a traumatic situation, they've undergone some traumatic situation, they need help. The most important thing is to get a med kit, show people that it's in your rig.
And as you guys see, I always say, keep it easily accessible. Strap it down so it doesn't bounce around, but it has to be ready to go. I have the ability, I've got mine on the back of my door. I think we showed that in a video with that car rolled over. And it's right there. There's no hesitation. I don't have to move anything, and I can get what I need.
You were max 45 seconds stopping, getting out, opening the door, grabbing the kit, and there.
Yeah.
It was fast.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right, we're going to pack it up into some Ziplocs for you, and then we'll pack it into the bag.
Great.
Go from there.
Let's do it.
All right.
If you're enjoying the episode today, continue the adventure. Become an Overland Bound member. We exist to connect you with the great outdoors through vehicle-dependent travel because adventure is necessary. For less than the price of a fancy cup of coffee a month, our members get full access to the Overland Bound One app on iOS and Android, where you can connect with our worldwide community, plan your next adventure, and find trips, trails, campsites, and other destinations. Our members also get thousands of dollars worth of discounts on their favorite overland gear. Join the Overland Bound crew today and take your first step to your next great adventure.
If you see what we've done, we've broken this down, as you saw in the earlier part. You've got tape, 2 compressed rolls of gauze, 2 Abd pads, 1 more really compressed roll, and then a soft gauze. And then the Cpr mask would go somewhere different. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pack up each of these into their little baggies. So you have your tape, gauze, Abd pads, more gauze, and that's 1 bleeding module, so that you can toss that to somebody and you'll have the ability to care for 1 patient with bleeding. We'll do that for this second one and make some room for the backpack and then start loading it up. All right, so we'll get the backpack in here. This is that main back compartment for the trauma stuff. 1 bleeding module, 2 bleeding modules, Cpr mask. I recommend an easy to get to, non-zipped pocket. Then you can take your airway adjuncts. They can go in there as well, facing out so you can see them. And then your tourniquets. Depending on which tourniquet you want to keep out, you keep that one separate for the front of the bag with your shears. Now your trauma component with your chest seal, which can go either with your CPR or up with your tourniquets, whichever one you think is easiest for you. That section is done. We'll move on to the base camp, which is the midsection. No particular order, whatever works for you in here. Take your splint and put it down in the bottom if you want. Ice packs I'd keep out for the moment just because if you squeeze them that they will activate. Tape, more gauze, gauze pads for little boo-boos. Rescue blankets can go back here. Medication pouch, triangular bandage. Then you can put your ice packs in here as well. And then your first aid manual will slot right in there. And diabetic gel can go in one of these little mesh pockets. We covered that this pouch here is for your gloves. So just put your personal protective gear in there. In the front admin pouch, your pulse ox. We didn't go over how this works, but it does come with batteries. You just stick it on your finger and press the on button and give it a second, and it'll read for you. You've got your glow stick and your whistle. Hand sanitizer, again, recommend getting more of that. Tweezers, a little trick is to only put half in, half out so they don't slip down. And then your Booboo Kit wherever you think you want to put that. Once that's done, take your tourniquet of choice and secure it to the outside. 2 pairs of gloves, and then the scissors as well. And that is your packed up bag.
All right, hey, so there's a bag. One thing I'm going to point out is, can you see it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
this environment, it's like there, that's
kinda
obvious.
stands
It's,
out.
yeah.
That's good.
That's your
That's
med,
good. That's what
your
you
med
want.
kit. Yeah.
When you're in an emergency, you need to get to your gear quickly. One of the important components to me was the ability to open, to basically rip apart. I now have
Easy
access
zippers.
to everything from my trauma kit. The way that we've broken this up are 2 bleeding modules. So this has gauze and tape for packing wounds. I can toss you one and say, you can go there. I will stay here. You've had your 1 tourniquet on the outside, and that's your trauma kit. You have access now to everything. You're down next to the patient. Everything you need to make a difference is right here. Easy to see. I do recommend, if you're going to keep it in clear plastic baggies so you can see it. There is a little pocket back here as well. Lots of space in that compartment.
1, 2,
Everything
3.
you need
1, 2,
is
3.
right there.
Yeah.
And lots and lots of room for your trauma components back here if you want to add more.
And then adding stop the bleed gear, like gauze and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it will extend your kit, right?
Yeah, the more you add, obviously, the more you can care for and the more injuries on one person you can care for.
Yeah.
You don't have to go overboard. Again, you really need to be thinking more of how to get somebody out. Tourniquets, they are highly effective. If you're bleeding in the arm or the legs, put a tourniquet on. You may have to use 2 tourniquets on the legs for certain people, bigger people, more muscular people, but just stop the bleeding and then you've got time. Once you've stopped the bleeding, you've done your job, because there's really nothing else you can do. You don't have blood to replace it. You're not going to do anything else. You've stopped the bleeding. Now give them to help. So everything that you should do should take a few minutes to stabilize what you can, and now you're just talking about getting them out.
Great. Great. All right, Chris. Hey,
But yeah.
thanks a lot. Really
course,
appreciate
man.
it. So, yeah, really appreciate it. Chris, you can contact Chris over at Overland Bound MD on Instagram.
Yep, there's a dot in there, overlandbound.md.
Yep.
Yep.
Overlandbound.md. And we also have a boot camp section on our app. It's called Overland Bound 1. It's free. You can access the boot camp section and connect with the community there. That's on iOS and Android, Overland Bound 1. We'll have some more videos coming up, won't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
we will.
All right,
Thank you.
Chris, thanks a lot.
All right.
See you guys on the trail, hopefully.